So we're now going to join Sam Stein for his closing statement. He is King's Counsel representing some of the subpostmasters at the Post Office Horizon IT inquiry. And we're going to hear his conclusions on the Post Office's involvement in the Post Office scandal and what led to him describing the Post Office as a chorus of cowards and characterised the Phase 4 hearings as a parade of liars, bullies, amnesiacs and arrogant individuals. Let's jump into the inquiry.
Phase 4 has pulled back the curtain on the decades of the great Post Office cook-up and cover-up. That has been made up of these 4 key ingredients: the disdain and dislike of sub-postmasters by the Post Office and their employees, because, and I quote from a Post Office investigator, they are all crooks. Secondly, an appalling lack of professionalism of lawyers, combined with bullying investigators. Thirdly, a refusal to investigate the Horizon system because of what that would reveal. And lastly and finally, fourthly, the Post Office cult. The almighty Post Office must be protected at all costs. Sir, what an awful cocktail, a Molotov cocktail, that they consistently over these decades threw at sub-postmasters, their families, their managers and their staff. In doing so, wrecking mental, physical and economic health. So, we suggest that the least that we can expect of publicly and taxpayer-funded organisations is that they will do what is right when no one is watching. Not do what is unconscionable because they think nobody will find out. Let me deal with the consistency of attitude towards sub-postmasters. Phase 4 started in Phase 3. You will recall the statement, and sir, we will provide a copy next week of my speaking notes, which will contain all references, and otherwise I won't therefore refer in this speech to references today. So you will recall the statement of Susan Harding, the designer of the Impact programme in 2003 to 2006. The programme that largely removed the suspense account, meaning that to balance, sub-postmasters had to pay up and not dispute a shortfall. At paragraph 31, page 7 of her statement, it says this: it was agreed during the design of Impact that the suspense account would be removed, as historically it was used by sub-postmasters to hide discrepancies in their accounts rather than resolve them. In the questions asked of Miss Harding by Mr. Beer, King's Counsel, on the 22nd of February 2023, Miss Harding confirmed that she worked on the principle that prior to Horizon that sub-postmasters did have losses and hid those losses. We have seen through the evidence in Phase 4 that this has been the mindset that informed the actions taken by the Post Office against sub-postmasters since the introduction of Horizon. Essentially a mindset that was echoed through to Mr. Thomas's slanderous email to Mr. Graham Ward, who gave evidence yesterday in 2015. No investigation of the Horizon system could be allowed. Mr. Pardo said in his evidence to the inquiry on the 29th of November of last year, there was a persistent sentiment that the system was fit for purpose. I was never in a meeting when it was discussed with me the concept of putting the brakes on prosecution activity. It's clear that there was a fear that to do that would immediately cast doubt on prosecutions that had been completed, that had gone before. Mr. Wilson, the head of criminal law at the Post Office, sent an email on the 3rd of March 2010 in which he told his colleagues, an investigation will be disclosable as undermining evidence on the defence in the cases proceeding through the criminal courts. Going on to say, the potential impact, however, is much wider for Pol, in that every office in the country will be seen to be operating a compromised system with untold damage to the business. To continue prosecuting alleged offenders, knowing that there is an ongoing investigation to determine the veracity of Horizon, could also be detrimental to the reputation of my team. Anne Chambers told the inquiry in her Phase 4 evidence on the 27th of September of 2023 that the Post Office's priority in 2007, she was referring to, was not to assist sub-postmasters. She said it was fairly clear that the Post Office were keen on defending the integrity of their system rather than trying to get to the bottom of issues, whether system problems or business problems affecting individual branches. Ms. Chambers said that she had expressed these views in a disregarded afterthoughts document, which she produced following Mr. Castleton's case. And we mustn't forget the 2010 Receipts, Payments, Mismatch, Bug, Meeting Notes document that we've looked at many times. The document described as dynamite by Diane Matthews, which shows Post Office and Fujitsu joining forces to concoct unacceptable and disingenuous solutions in relation to one of the many bugs that plague the system, leaving you, sir, to ask the question of witnesses. Which one of those solutions were ever used? Mr. Ismay, Post Office's head of product and branch accounting, set out his views in his whitewash report on the 2nd of August 2010, where he repeats in essence Mr. Wilson's concern: adverse publicity and reputation, and nothing about do the right thing. He concluded that there should be no independent review of Horizon because this could lead to a perception that the Post Office cast doubts on its own system. In his evidence earlier in 2023, Mr. Ismay stated that although his name was on the report, he hardly accepted that these were his own words, stating that narrative would have come from speaking to somebody in the criminal law team. I imagine it probably came from a conversation with Mr. Rob Wilson. Mr. Beer asked Mr. Wilson about these matters in October of 23. Mr. Beer's first question in relation to this: was it your view that the Post Office should just grit its teeth and get on with prosecuting people? Mr. Wilson: I think so, yes. When Mr. Pardo was asked by ourselves on the 29th of November at page 150 of the transcript whether the persistent sentiment that the system was fit for purpose came from his boss, John Scott, he agreed that this was the case. The one I remember probably with greater clarity is the Paul Reynolds communications, he said. I'm sure that preceded known media interest that was imminently about to go public, essentially saying, look, folks, this is likely to be out within the public domain, and the approach we are taking is this, and this, to paraphrase. Mr. Jacobs took the point one further when he asked this: so the whole organisation was told there's going to be something in the media about Horizon, and it is to be disregarded because everything is robust. Mr. Pardo replied, I recall reading a written rebuttal and position that the business were adopting, yes. For further insights into the Horizon cover-up, we should look at what was said in Mr. Coyne's evidence in July of 23. Mr. Coyne was a jointly instructed expert in the Cleverleys case, so he was Pol's expert. He advised that the whole estate was suffering from problems. Mr. Maloney has dealt with this already in his submissions today, recalling that Mr. Coyne was called a git for his trouble. The inquiry will also recall the letter in February of 2004, which adds to this, in which Mr. Keith Baines of the Post Office wrote to Colin Lenton-Smith at Fujitsu and said, as I'm sure you will understand, the Post Office is concerned by these findings, not only in relation to this particular case, but also because of any precedent that this may set. Going on to say, and that may be used by Post Office's agents to support claims that the Horizon system is causing errors in their branch accounts. So the Post Office knew that the Horizon system was defective, but still sought to bring prosecutions of sub-postmasters, bring civil actions against postmasters, and refused to investigate these issues because the sub-postmasters might catch on to the truth. In Phase 4, we have seen a parade of liars, bullies, amnesiacs, and arrogant individuals give evidence before you. This has been a mixed experience for many of our clients. Shazia Sadiq has said, I came to the inquiry to see my tormentor, but he wouldn't look me in the eye. Indeed, in a lot of cases, our clients have been appalled to see the extent at which Post Office staff members treated sub-postmasters as subhumans. They hounded and harassed and in some cases drove decent and honest men and women to their graves. It has been noteworthy, we say, that for every witness who has been brazen about their behaviour, There have been others who have chosen to plead amnesia. We have witnessed, sir, a chorus of cowards who deny any memory of involvement in this scandal. Two stark examples of such amnesia are provided by the evidence of Suzanne Winter and Lisa Allen, respectively. They claim to be unable to recall trials in 2004 and 2007, which they attended and gave evidence, notably those trials where sub-postmistresses were found not guilty. We have also heard from witnesses that have sought to tell the inquiry that the message from above was that any complaints from sub-postmasters about the Horizon system was to be denied and that the system was robust. A dishonest message, sir, that shows that honour has been lost in the post at the post office. We know, of course, that the inquiry cannot make any findings as to criminal or civil liability. But our clients take some small comfort in the fact that the Metropolitan Police and Solicitors Regulation Authority have followed the hearings closely.
Well, some powerful words there from Sam Stein KC, who is a lawyer representing some of the sub-postmasters at the post office inquiry. Characterises the witnesses seen in phase 4 in this part where he's focused on the post office as a chorus of cowards, and says that we've seen a parade of liars, bullies, amnesiacs and arrogant individuals. Certainly strong words from him there, summing up clear distaste for what has been seen during phase 4 of the Post Office Horizon IT inquiry. He outlined briefly the experiences of some sub-postmasters and how they feel they are still not being treated fairly. And of course that is something that is clear for us all to see. The role of the post office so far in this has sparked a lack of accountability, responsibility and morality that we would expect from such organisation.